Hello, Starseeds, and welcome to episode 5 of the Rachel C. Project, which has the very saucy title of The Art of Go-Go Dance and Atlantis Electric Circus. No need for any sort of lengthy introduction here because the associated storylines with this particular episode should clarify and illuminate anything that the title has to say. And so, without further ado and preamble, let's get right into it. Once upon a time, in a land not too far away, I was a go-go dancer. What I mean by being a go-go dancer is that I got paid to dance at some of the greatest clubs in Toronto, such as the Government, the glitziest and glamorous clubs in Toronto, for DJs such as David Guetta, will.i.am, Tiesto, all paid for because we were go-go dancers. Now, that's jumping a little bit ahead. So before I get into my life as a go-go dancer, let's go all the way back to the beginning of my relationship with dance itself, because it is a very important one. The relationship I have with dance is a relationship that I've cultivated with being able to communicate with my own body, which is the true technology. I was extremely painfully shy growing up, and as a result, the traditional pathway of going to dance class was never going to be an option for me in the way that was currently laid out. I wouldn't know anyone in class, I would have to make brand new friends, and then what if I had to do things across the floor in front of everybody and messed up and people would laugh at me? So all of these things in my head that existed prevented me from ever approaching or even asking my parents to go to a dance class. I think I also did like teddy bear aerobics, which I cried at the entire time. The dance teacher that changed everything for me. My elementary school was a small Catholic one out in the prairies of Manitoba, and it was called St. Emile School. It basically looked like a big barn with St. Emile School on the outside of it, and that was because that housed our huge gymnasium, which was actually a great gym, so I shouldn't really discount it. It's just that the gym sat right in front of the entire school. And so most folks in Winnipeg know about St. Emile because it had that huge barn door, which had St. Emile on the front of it. When I was in grade 3, we had a brand new kindergarten teacher who started teaching, and her name was Miss Luba. And she wasn't just a kindergarten teacher, she was also a dance instructor. And so she started to offer free dance classes, free jazz classes actually, on Tuesdays and Thursdays at lunchtime for everyone who attended St. Emile School. We were a pretty small school, so we didn't have multiple classes. I had one class with between 25 to 30 kids in it, and we would all end up being friends with each other. And so when Miss Luba started offering these dance classes at lunch for free for the kids, me and my friends, of course, would go over lunch. And those classes changed my entire life because, as I mentioned before, I was never ever going to go to a dance class on my own. It was so intimidating, but in a framework at my school with my friends, and we were all going to go together, it changed everything. And every year, all of the Catholic schools in my hometown of Winnipeg would get together and we would put on a dance performance, a dance showcase as part of a festival. I'm trying to think of what the theme was for it, but it was more like feel-good dances, right? Because dance is part of anchoring in the storyline where we embody our divine essence, right? It was known that our school, as small as it was, would go all out. We always had a lot of participants, and Miss Luba was an amazing choreographer. My favorite performance, and this is actually the performance that I ended up getting a digitized copy right here at the library.
Rachel! Rachel!
My favorite performance from our Catholic school showcase was the Flintstones remixed, rave remixed. Where Terry Fredrickson, the lone guy in our dance class, played as Fred Flintstone with all of us bodacious babe. What was his wife's name? I will figure it out. I'll edit that in. But we all had bones in our heads. It was really great. It is also a perfect example where we completely actually mess up some of the counts with the cannons in the dance, but because everyone kept on moving and was on beat, no one noticed, and we got a standing ovation at the end. So worked out. So at the same time, when I was discovering dance with Miss Luba, myself and my best friends at the time, Laura, Jen, and Rachel, would put on these elaborate performances for air bands and talent shows. It's really funny to me now, considering the popularity of TikTok, because quite honestly, that is what myself and my friends would do on the weekends. I had a video camera. We would do things like the S Club dance, where you would have to do the S backwards to have it show up. Maybe we can do a little fun video edit tutorial of that. But going back to these fun performances that me and my friends would put on, the first one we did, and I'm going to be doing a recreation of this, was for Are You That Somebody by Aaliyah, the late great Miss Aaliyah, and we also created a dance for The Sign by Ace of Base. So both of these artists, I suppose, are not necessarily even relevant at the time, but I think it gives you a sense of the type of music I grew up dancing to. Now, in the safety of my own home now, however, because if you go to dance classes, and I hope all of you who are listening to this, if you've ever been intimidated about going, don't get put off by perhaps maybe a dance class where you felt like you weren't catching on to everything or you felt intimidated, because it's really like anything else in life, is the connection of the right instructor to give you the pathways and the frame for you to find out how to move in your own body. So in the safety of my own home, dance took on a whole new meaning, a whole new extended, deeper meaning. And there was a huge importance there because I started to learn how to actually express myself in my body. And the reason why I love dance so much is because I also love music deeply. I have a very distinct memory of hanging out with my dad in the basement of our first home in St. Norbert, listening to old vinyl records, like a record player, and songs like the Banana Boat song and Elvis, actually, because my dad really, really loved Elvis, the old school Elvis, not Vegas Elvis. My high school, as mentioned in episode 3, was an all-girls Catholic high school called St. Mary's Academy. And for our musicals, we actually borrowed boys, because we didn't have our own boys, from the all-boys school called St. Paul's. I actually even got to run an audition for dancers in grade 12, my final year. This is a really great story where we really drive home the point that dance is for all of us. During the audition for our last grade 12 musical, I think this was for Les Mis, the audition, I distinctly remember fighting to pick a girl named Laura, who didn't necessarily do all that well in the audition as far as choreography, because when you do an audition in dance, typically they'll teach you a combo. They'll say it's a short combo. It'll usually be much longer than you think. And then they will, of course, put you in groups and you'll run that choreography, and then we'll pick who makes it to the next round, things like that. So I fought for this girl because she had a great X factor, a great performance, even though she messed up a lot of the choreography. She did eventually I won. She ended up being in the performance as a bar wench with us. And I found out years later when I was in university that she actually ended up being one of the choreographers when she got to grade 12 herself. So I was right. And so when I actually did get to university, I auditioned for the Bison dance team and became one of their members. In my final years, I was a captain and actually got to choreograph some stuff. And that part of my life was actually probably one of the most fun. It was a little dramatic and kind of hectic, but it was a lot of fun. We on the dance team got to dance in front of hundreds and sometimes thousands of people in stadiums for football games, basketball games, volleyball games, as well as special events and stuff for the university. I also learned in dance class, or not dance class, but this is more about being on a dance team, a dance performance team. And I learned a lot about how discipline is necessary to bring a creative vision into a tangible sort of reality. There was real training on being clean. So if you're going to move your arm here, you need to make sure your arm is here and not here, or also like your face at the same time while you're doing the movement needs to also be presenting a smile, not looking super like, oh my gosh, what's the next move, right? And I remember having practice and doing a dance piece again and again and again and again and over and over and over until it was perfect and crispy clean, and it very satisfying when you watch choreography that's very clean. Minus extra points if your toes aren't pointed. No flexed feet in dance class, please. Point your toes. Flexed feet is fine in working out and stuff for some reasons, but yeah, point your toes, please, people. My dance captain and mentor at the time, her name was Crystal, and I don't think that is any mistake, her name being Crystal. I really hope you're doing well, Crystal, out there. You were and probably still are an amazing dancer. And let me tell you, this little blonde chickie could freaking do hip hop. Like, she could dance hip hop like crazy. I mean, I consider myself an okay hip hop dancer, but Crystal was amazing. I still remember some of her dances in like my body's memory, like Amory's One Thing, and there was Houston's I Like That song. I will find it because I feel like my body's cells still remember that dance. And also, this is a side note to other dances. Sometimes when I learn new dances to the same song, my body will automatically go back into an old dance. And that just also goes to show you how memory is stored in the body as opposed to just up here all the time, right? And also from Crystal, I do still remember a big thing that she said to us. And she never let us dance to Beyonce. It was her opinion, and I agree, that Beyonce's not really a dancer. She could have choreography, but she's not really a dancer. And so having her kind of be this beacon of being a dancer is a little bit of a disservice to other artists who are true dancers, such as Paula Abdul, Janet Jackson, even J-Lo, right? I was never a part of the dance team when Crystal was never involved in it, so I don't really know what happened. I know a few friends of mine stayed on the dance team after I had graduated and I had left, and other people took over, and so I wasn't privy to what happened to the dance team after I left, as well as who was running it and what kind of standards they were implementing. But now I'm finally at the go-go dance part of this story. The art of go-go dancing. When I first moved to Toronto, I was part of a go-go dance company run by a beautiful Russian girl named Dasha. She always referred to me as a firecracker. We would be booked at clubs such as Music, Union, and other little special events. When I go-go danced at Government, we would do 3 epic sets of 20 minutes apiece and get paid $300 plus cab there and back. And this was over 10 years ago. I honestly don't know if you could get a job like that right now. And so I am going to do my work to be able to provide that kind of experience and jobs to my dancers out there. So that is also the point of this particular podcast. My counterpart and friend at the time, Ginger, who now lives in LA, would play and mirror each other and our moves on the platform, because as part of the art of go-go dancing, I love how she would always point out, like, oh gosh, Rachel, you're doing that move, I am now going to do that move. And at music specifically, we had to arrive at least 90 minutes before our first set for hair and makeup and costume prep. We would all perform, I think there was usually about 8 to 10 dancers. We would all be on this cake-like platform in the middle of the club in an outward circle formation, and we would all know when to move positions. Oh my gosh, that was a lot of fun. We were fairies one night, we were ballerina dancers another night, we were Star Wars, like, silver suit people another night. We had to wear sometimes these glasses where you couldn't see anything, but the costumes was like the amount of effort that went into the production of putting on the performance of what go-go dancing was based on what the theme was of that night in terms of the party and the music and the vibe was epic. I don't see that right now when going out. That's why me and Kevin don't go out. And that was a really long time ago now that I did that. Its government has long since been torn down. They gave Armin van Buuren a piece of the floor, for God's sake. And due to Mushroomland and delving into the dreamscape and really understanding what this reality is, I have been having my higher selves screaming at me to now create something from the ashes from what has already happened. We can acknowledge the nostalgia of what has happened, but from that, come together and build something brand new. Atlantis Electric Circus. Now let's explain this a little bit. I hopefully have a quote from my Twitch stream where Nurse was like, remember Atlantis Electric Circus? And I was like, of course I remember Electric Circus, not Atlantis Electric Circus, because that's why I moved out to Toronto, right? My university degree was a double honors in psychology and English literature. And so as I am writing The Dragon Warriors, I am also working on Atlantis Electric Circus, which is the story of Atlantis embedded within the graphic novel of the same main storyline. A play within a play is a literary device in which an additional play is performed during the performance of the main play. The concept of a play within a play or a story within a story comes from the French saying "mis en abîme," which is also translated to in English, placed into the abyss. Shakespeare himself was a big fan of using this literary device in both Hamlet, which is in my opinion quite overrated, and A Midsummer Night's Dream. Modern day wizard Alan Moore even uses this device in Watchmen, having a pirate story be a comic book that makes an appearance within the world of the Watchmen. What a play within a play seeks to do is to further drive a point or a thematic point home. From my perspective, it brings a meta attention to the play-like and theater-like way that this reality functions and presents itself. For the musical The King and I, there are whole scenes in that musical dedicated to the story or the play within the play or the story within the story. And now bringing this back to what Atlantis Electric Circus is, there is a huge cosmic link between shamanism, which is the ability to traverse and guide others through the liminal worlds and space, and being a musician. In my very first Sacred Soma Storytime series, I talk about the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus was a gifted musician and as such was able to travel dimensions, including venturing into the underworld to retrieve his beloved. Likewise, Kevin as a DJ has helped me remember who I truly am and who I was who I am as a dancer. In The Rum Diaries, which is a movie about the late wonderful writer Hunter S. Thompson, he talks about being a writer and finally being able to write like himself. And really, when I was taking dance classes in my adult life, again, I found myself frustrated in some classes when I couldn't pick up on the choreo right away, or if I didn't look exactly like how I wanted to look like or how the teacher was looking. And remember, after go-go dancing, I had returned to my regularly scheduled matrix life, Arcano matrix life at this time. And so I did dance classes as a way to reconnect. And I even performed with a performance group called the Badass Babes. Since Mushroomland, my perspective as it comes to dance has shifted dramatically. Movement and music magic. When myself and Kevin were still personal trainers at the old Extreme Fitness at Yonge and Dundas, I used to use the empty gym or the empty studios to practice my fitness routines that I was competing in and to rehearse and also just to create them. And Kevin would come by when we were still dating and just watch me play. And now that I have the very great privilege of having my husband Kevin discover himself as a DJ, or what I like to call him as a vibrational alchemist, due to this, I was able to rediscover the music that deserves to be embodied by dancers, the music that deserves to be moved to. And I just noticed that the class, when you go and take a dance class, you are subject to whatever that instructor has decided to do the class on, that song. And even more so, you may not even know that song. And there's a huge ability, like, if you don't know a song, it's going to be much harder for you to pick up on that dance. That's just a quick tip. So now that I have Kevin at home introducing me to all of this new amazing music, I have realized that there are so many more songs and music that deserves to be embodied and moved to, not just, the traditional dance class songs. And so combine synchronicity with formation and the right energies, and why couldn't you actually make magic or open a portal, right? There is a wonderful psychology behind how moving in sync with other human beings releases oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone. This is why really, really good sex would also do the same thing in terms of building those bonds between partners, right? Additionally, dopamine, the motor hormone that is also responsible for the body's reward system, is intrinsically related to movement. And this is why, to bring this particular episode to a close, I am creating my very own go-go dance crew called the Infinity Dancers. We are going to be planning a performance very soon, which will be based on Atlantis Electric Circus. Please stay tuned for all of the fun details, because I have a couple auditions and a couple girls in mind for certain roles. And so that's all going to be taking place in the next couple weeks. I hope that you have found that this episode 5 of the Rachel Z Project extremely entertaining. And if you have any particular songs or musical choices that move you, I would love to know what they are, so that we can maybe create a dance class for them that you can join. So until next time, stay moving, stay magical, my friends, and stay blessed. Until next time, Starseeds. This is the Rachel Z Project, episode 5, The Art of Go-Go Dance and Atlantis Electric Circus. Until next time.